This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 62nd time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. We're not going to waste your time here because we have a lot of things to talk about. A lot of stories broke in the world of entertainment this week that I want to delve into. Let me put it this way. On this show, I usually tend to go for about 3 to 5 news stories per week. Usually, the week is not that busy where there's a lot of stories in general, so I usually try to narrow it down to between 3 to 5 news stories per week. We have 4 times that many news stories to talk about this week, 12 to be exact, so we have a lot of shit to talk about, so let's just go ahead and just jump right on into it. Before we even get to any of those news stories per se, we've got to delve into the weekend box office, which is not spectacular by any means necessary, but it does have some interesting notes of conversation to talk about here, specifically starting with the number 5 film this week, which is the only major new release this week, and that is Robert Zemeckis' latest feature, the reunion of Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, and writer Eric Roth, and that is Here, which was a film that was not expected to do very well because of Zemeckis' track record as of late. The fact that the movie got some pretty bad reviews coming out of the early reviews coming this past week, and the film itself is one of those experimental films that Zemeckis tries his hardest to make work, and sometimes they can be some good ones, but this one was not received well by most people. This is a story about it's a generational story about family and the special place they inhabit, sharing in love, loss, laughter, and life. Basically, a movie in which you are inside this one specific area, and it's an area that becomes a home, and you see Tom Hanks and Robin Wright as this couple that meet and then get together and then rekindle their long memories of the place that they lived, which is, of course, Here. And I was tempted. I actually did want to see this movie, although I did not hear the reviews for this were that great. But then again, most of Robert Zemeckis' movies don't usually get, as of late, don't get the best reviews in general, even though there's been some good ones. Like, I really liked, his probably the most underrated one to me was the Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie, The Walk, which I thought was a really good movie, did not make a lot of money at the box office, and was largely forgotten by critics, but for the most part. But, yeah, stuff like Allied, Welcome to Marwen, The Witches, Pinocchio, I can't really say that be one of those people that says anything that has been said already. Those movies are not really all that great. Like, they really are not that good, and I really do want to see this one. No, I hear that it's on the same level of something like The Walk, which is some movie I really like. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I'll probably get to it at some point, but the film only brought in $5 million, so it sounds like this movie's probably going to be one that I'll have to catch on digital or when it comes out on Blu-ray. And yeah, this thing has cost 10 times as much as it made at the box office, $45 to $50 million. So yeah, that's not a good sign for this movie going forward. So yeah, the movie probably is not going to be as successful as people probably hope. The movie is not a successful film whatsoever, and it probably will not be, unfortunately, which kind of sucks, but I still am cautious to see it. I do want to see if it still is a good movie or not. I mean, I might like it, because like I said, this feels like a movie similar to something like The Walk, which is a movie I really liked in general, but so yeah, not much more to say about this one, except that this is one I'll probably have to catch on home video at some point, But anyway, that's the only new release in the top 5, because every other one here is stuff that you pretty much have seen already here. Number 4 was number 4 last week, and that is, of course, Conclave, which only had a small drop-off last week of 20%, from last week of 20%, $5.3 million, bringing its 2-week gross up to $15.2 million. A film that might have some awards consideration for it going forward, maybe it might not, but hey, it's still hanging around in there. But then again, it might be because mostly there hasn't been the box office in general has nothing really significant coming this week, or even next week to be exact. I mean, we're probably not going to get into some big stuff until, like I said, as so many times here, until Red 1 comes out in the middle of the month. But case in point with number 3, Smile 2. Smile 2 brought in $6.8 million, which only having a small drop-off of 28.6%, despite the fact the weekend started the day after Halloween. $52.6 million after 3 weeks. It made its money back, but it's definitely not as strong as the first movie's gross is, which that movie ended up making $100 million at the box office when it was all said and done. So moving on to number 3, moving up from number 3 last week, and that is DreamWorks' The Wild Robot, which actually gained from last week. Grew 11% more money this week from last week, $7.5 million, bringing its 6-week gross up to $121.4 million. It should have some traction going into the first couple months and weeks in November, because the big new family films aren't coming until the middle of the month, and then we got the big tidal wave coming up the weekend before Thanksgiving with Wicked, and then following that Moana 2. So it still has a good 2 to 3 weeks to make more money at the box office. So. But I'm glad to see it. It's one of the best movies of the year, very high up there with one of my favorite movies of the year. Which brings us to the number 1 movie this week, and that is last week's number 1 movie, which is Venom: The Last Dance, which is not really much of a surprise. Probably the biggest surprise is that it actually had not as bad of a drop-off as most people expected it to. $26.1 million, which is a 48% drop-off from last week's $51 million gross, bringing its 2-week gross up to $90 million. Worldwide grosses, it's up to $317 million, which is really where those movies make the most money, honestly. Let me just go ahead and see what the other movies did after their second weekend, because Venom 2 was it's definitely lower than Venom 2, which Venom 2 was at $141 million after 2 weeks, and the first Venom, I think, had to be somewhere around that, because I think the first one opened up to around $80 million. I have the wrong decade here. I have 2008 put up here. Excuse me. Yeah, it's definitely lower than the first two. Venom in its second weekend had $142 million. Venom 2 was $141 million, but Venom: Last Dance still going to make its money, still going to make over $100 million when it's all said and done. It's going to be a worldwide hit, so Sony really ain't complaining all that much in general. These movies are made for a specific audience, and unlike Madam Web and Morbius, the audiences find a way to get to these movies, and they really do come back for more of them, I guess. But other than that, though, yeah, the box office was nothing too spectacular. And next week, it's not going to be anything too grand either. Venom will probably still be number 1. The Wild Robot could still Wild Robot will still be at number 2, probably. I don't think it'll make it to number 1 again, But next week, the big new release is The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, which I guess could be a movie that could surprise everybody because of the holiday season coming up. But then again, who really knows? Who really knows how that's going to turn out? I would not be shocked at all if Venom is not the number 1 movie again next weekend. So, okay, so we got the box office out of the way. Let's get to some news stories because we have a lot of them. So let's dive in. And so the first order of business we have here today is that Jon Stewart isn't going to be leaving The Daily Show anytime soon. And, I talked about this on this show here not too long ago about what The Daily Show will do after the elections. And they still don't have an idea of what they're going to do. But for the time being, it looks like Jon Stewart is going to still be the focal point of this plan going forward for them, as I have the story here from Variety. After returning to the satirical news program in early 2024, Stewart has extended his deal and will host The Daily Show every Monday through December 2025. Stewart will also remain an executive producer on the show. The Daily Show news team correspondents will continue to split hosting duties throughout the remainder of the week. Among the current roster of rotating anchors are Desi Lydic, Ronnie Chang, Michael Costa, and Jordan Klepper. I've truly enjoyed being back working with the incredible team at The Daily Show and Comedy Central. I was really hoping they allow me to do every other Monday, but I'll just have to suck it up, Stewart said in a statement. Asked at the September Emmys if he planned to extend his deal with The Daily Show, Stewart quipped, "Well, my feeling is that the election won't never end. So why would I? How could I leave? I won't be allowed to leave until the election. Until we are all ground as some sort of calcified new nubs. We're looking forward to it being awful." Stewart hosted The Daily Show from 1999 to 2015, driving the series to widespread acclaim and 23 Emmy Awards. When he departed the show before Donald Trump's presidential term, comedian Trevor Noah took over until 2022. The Daily Show did not find an immediate permanent host after Noah left, including instead rotating between guest hosts including Sarah Silverman, Hassan Minhaj, Chelsea Handler, Wanda Sykes, Al Franken, and Cal Penn. Minhaj was offered the gig the next host of The Daily Show, but the deal exploded after a New York Times profiler on Minhaj revealed that the comedian had embellished stories in his stand-up acts. When Stewart came back to host The Daily Show in 2024, he brought the program to its highest rating since 2018. So basically, yeah, the plan is that Jon Stewart is going to return to do the Daily Show once a week, and essentially we're going to have the same thing that we've had the last year, which I'm okay with that. I mean, honestly, it'd be cool. It'd be nice if we had a new permanent host there, but what they've been doing so far with this rotational thing, having all the guys do it, has been working for them. It's been very funny. Everybody's gotten a chance to shine. I mean, everybody's really doing their parts very well. It's a really, really good time right now for The Daily Show, and having Jon Stewart at the start of the week really does, it really brings it back to the old days without feeling like they're just rehashing the same old thing, because Jon Stewart is still just as funny as ever. He plays a big part of why The Daily Show is still one of the most enjoyable shows to watch right now, especially with the election coming up in a couple of days. So yeah, I can't see why not having him around. I mean, this is something that pretty much needs to happen. I mean, I think right now, I'm very comfortable with the Daily Show just going with this plan all along, just having the rotational guest host coming in within the news team itself, and just having Jon Stewart at the forefront each week. I think that's something that we should be more than accustomed to having, and I personally don't mind it whatsoever. I don't know how other people are going to feel about it, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's just a simple way to really look at this whole thing. So let's go ahead and move on to story number 2 that I have here. And that is that finally, Jumanji 3 is finally coming to theaters. It's been, 5 years since the last movie? We'll just have to wait at least 2 more years, but in 2026, we're finally going to get it. I've got the story here from The Hollywood Reporter, and it goes like this. The Jumanji crew is heading back to the jungle. Sony Pictures announced that Jumanji 3 is set to hit theaters December 11th, 2026. Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan starred in the first 2 films and are expected to return, as is director Jake Kasdan, who helmed both features. Johnson, Kasdan, Danny Garcia, Hiram Garcia, and Matt Tomac are producers of the movie that will screen in IMAX and premium large formats. Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle hit theaters in December 2017 and surpassed $950 million at the global box office. A sequel followed in 2019 and topped $801 million globally. Welcome to the Jungle focused on a group of teenage friends getting trapped inside a video game as a collection of adult avatars. It was based off the 1981 children's book Jumanji by author Chris Van Allsburg, in addition to director Joe Johnston's 1995 film of the same name that starred Robin Williams, Kirsten Dunst, and David Alan Grier. Earlier this year, Gillan told The Hollywood Reporter that it had been a challenge to make everything align for the new one. I'm sure it's tricky to wrangle everyone's schedule, but I haven't heard anything about it other than the fact that we'll be doing it at some point, she said at the time. So we're also enthusiastic about it. We all love working on these films, and it's just a matter of when. During an interview with Virgin Radio that published online in the fall of 2022, Johnson said he could not wait to make the third movie happen, and that Kasdan was in the process of developing it. Johnson also teased that the new movie could be the final project for this version of the franchise. Jake has a very special, cool idea that for Jumanji 3 could be the finale, Johnson said at the time. But in the spirit of that, it's really special, I'll just say that. So really, it's been something that we've been kind of waiting for, and I think the last movie kind of set up this really fun idea that the game is they have a mid-credits sequence where, the Jumanji world has now seeped into the real world, and I think the plan was that they were going to do something similar to like Jurassic World Dominion, where the setup is that now that the game is coming to the real world, and like now the world has just kind of had to accept the fact that the Jumanji world and the human world now coexist together. At least that's what I thought they were going to set up for. Maybe that was the initial plan, but then again, it has been it's going to be 7 years after the last movie came out, so who knows if they're really going to stick forward to that plan. I hope that that's the case. I hope they don't just go back into the video game again. Like, it was really setting up a fun idea of what this next movie could be, so I'm hoping that is indeed going to be the case for it, but One way or another, I'm still definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with this with the next film. I mean, I think this will be I think this could be a really enjoyable film. I like the last two movies a lot. I thought the first two movies were a ton of fun. The first two Dwayne Johnson movies, not the '95 movie. I still really don't like the '95 Jumanji movie. I know everybody else does, but I love what they've done with these two movies before. With these two movies, Welcome to the Jungle, The Next Level, more than what they've done with the original Jumanji. So, like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with this in general, and hopefully they follow up on what they were setting up in the last movie, because I'm really looking forward to seeing how they wrap this whole thing up. So, comes out on December 11th, 2026, so we still got a couple of years before that happens. And with that said, on to the next story. So it was announced earlier in the year that a new Scary Movie reboot was in the works over at Miramax and Paramount. And this week we finally got word of who will be returning for the new Scary Movie films, and they're going way back to the past here. No, I'm not talking about Anna Faris and Regina Hall. They're not coming back, at least not yet. I'm not talking about the Zucker brothers. No, we're going all the way back to the very beginning here, and Deadline Hollywood has the story right here. The Scary Movie reboot that was announced at CinemaCon has finally come together, with the franchise's architects reuniting for the first time in 18 years from a new original screenplay. The earlier series has send up of slashers like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. The new Scary Movie will shoot next year for a theatrical release. The Wayans brothers, Marlon Wayans, Keenan Ivory Wayans, and Shawn Wayans, and Rick Alvarez are writing and producing the movie. The Scary Movie film franchise was developed by Marlon Wayans, Shawn Wayans, and Keenan Ivory Wayans. Keenan Ivory Wayans wrote and directed the first two movies. Marlon Wayans and Shawn Wayans wrote and starred in the first two films. Miramax boss Jonathan Glickman exclaimed, "We are thrilled to reunite with Scary Movie with the Wayans brothers, the brilliant creators behind the beloved franchise. The timing is perfect to bring back the series to the big screen, and we're lucky to have Keenan, Marlon, and Shawn's unique comedic vision bring it to audiences around the world." Marlon, Shawn, and Keenan Wayans told us, "We couldn't be more excited to be a part of the new Scary Movie and work with each other again. This is a franchise that we created more than 20 years ago. We remember people laughing in the aisles and hope to see that happening again. We look forward to working with Jonathan Glickman and his team at the new Miramax to bring these laughs to theaters where they belong. It's a double reunion." The Scary Movie comedies during the early aughts grossed north of $896 million worldwide through 5 movies. Scary Movie, released in 2000, was one of the highest-grossing R-rated horror movies of all time back in the day. The film opened to $42.5 million, which was the biggest opening for an R-rated horror movie and a black director at the time. Scary Movie is part of Paramount Pictures' first-look deal with Miramax. Miramax is the studio behind the franchise, and Paramount Pictures is releasing worldwide. Miramax Motion Picture Group President Becky Sloviter is overseeing the project for the label. Marlon Wayans will be seen starring in Justin Tipling's psychological sports thriller Him, produced by Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Productions, out September 2025. He is currently on his Wild Child tour throughout the nation. And, let's see, Alvarez wrote such Marlon Wayans movies as 50 Shades of Black, Sextuplets, and Naked. And, Alvarez, the fact that they brought in the writers of 50 Shades of Black, that's not a good sign going forward. And yes, I know that the Wayans brothers were behind the original Scary Movie films. I know those movies have a soft spot in everybody's hearts. And they're fun. They can be funny movies here and there, but I don't know. Like I'm the one person that says that I'm the one person that likes the David Zucker Scary Movie films over the Wayans brothers ones. Not to say that the Wayans brothers ones were bad in general, but I don't know. I don't know how to really feel about this, honestly. For one thing, I'm glad to see that they're getting them back here, and I think there's so much you can do with a new Scary Movie film. You could tackle the Jordan Peele movies, you could tackle stuff like Terrifier, the Saw movies, Paranormal Activity, and do it in a way that Scary Movie 5 didn't do it, because Scary Movie 5 was just an abysmal mess of a film on so many levels. But trying to tackle a spoof movie nowadays is just still a very, very tough thing to do, and, because nobody really knows how to do the spoof movies properly anymore. Like, once Jason Freeberg and Aaron Seltzer dismantled whatever life was left in the spoof movie franchise with their terrible movies in the late 2000s, all bets were off on how to make a movie as great as The Naked Gun or Airplane again. And just, like, I don't know. Like, I'm very conflicted on this. For one thing, I'm kind of glad they're getting them back, but like, even the Wayans brothers nowadays, when they try to do spoof movies, they're not good spoof movies at all. Like 50 Shades of Black. The problem with these newer spoof movies is that they want to make fun of the source material, but they don't want to go all in on it because oh, there's a loyal fan base behind them. We can't trigger the fan bases on these shitty movies. Like, we can't go in on how horrible the Twilight movies are or how horrible 50 Shades of Grey is. No, we can't do that. We can't, is because that'll hurt people's feelings. It's just like, that's the reason you make spoof movies in the first goddamn place. Like, it's just, like, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about this. I think there is a possibility that this could end up being something entertaining, but with that said, though, I don't know for sure. And we still have to figure out what this new Naked Gun reboot's coming up here. Is that, how good of a spoof movie is that going to be in particular? And that's one where I'm just kind of like, you're messing with the greatest comedy of all time, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm going to go in there with a lot of trepidations. And yeah, like, if that movie doesn't end up being as good as I think it's going to be, and I feel like it's going to be one of those movies that's just going to be the modern day spoof movie instead of the classic spoof movie that the originals were, then this genre doesn't deserve to be saved whatsoever. So I'm not that optimistic about what's going to happen here, but I mean, there's a lot of possibilities of what you can do with the scary movie films in general, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll be optimistic, but I'm not going to get my hopes up that much to say that this could be a good thing going forward. But I mean, it'd be cool to see classic Wayans Brothers spoof movie material again, not whatever they've been doing as of late. So with that said, on to our next story. So John Krasinski recently had the Jack Ryan TV series on Amazon, which was a very successful show. It was actually really good, too. But it looks like they're not done yet. In fact, they're going to take it to the next level here. Instead of doing just a television show, they're taking it to the big screen. Deadline Hollywood has the story here, and it says, looks like Amazon MGM Studios and John Krasinski aren't ready to say goodbye to the Jack Ryan character, as the studio is developing a new feature film starring Krasinski as the next stage in the evolution of the franchise. Wendell Pierce will also star alongside Krasinski in the TV series, also will star, and Michael Kelly is in negotiations to reprise his starring role. Andrew Bernstein, who served as executive producer and director on Season 2 of the Prime Video series, is directing the film from a script by Aaron Rabin, who served as the co-executive producer and writer on Season 4. Krasinski and Allison Seeger are producing via Sunday Night. Andrew Form is also producing. The film is in production in association with Paramount Pictures and Skydance, whose David Ellison and Dana Goldberg will executive produce alongside John Kelly and Carlton Cuse. The film will be an extension of the Amazon MGM series, Paramount Television, and Skydance landmark original series Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, which starred Krasinski as Clancy's iconic character. Following the release of the final 2 episodes of the 4th and 5th season of the series, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan garnered a significant 1.15 billion minutes of viewing per Nielsen. Airing 4 seasons, the series ranks among Prime Video's 3 most watched series globally. Most recently, John Krasinski released If for Paramount Pictures, which he starred in, wrote, produced, and directed. The film opened at number 1 and also stars Ryan Reynolds and Matt Damon, among others. Krasinski previously co-wrote and directed and starred in Paramount's Oscar-nominated A Quiet Place. It premiered to rave reviews and was named one of AFI's top 10 films of the year. Following the success of A Quiet Place, Krasinski released his follow-up hit A Quiet Place Part 2, and he also produced A Quiet Place Day 1, which was the top horror film of 2024. So yeah, the Jack Ryan series is coming back in feature-length form, and I mean, yeah, it's the natural progression for this character. I mean, the last time Jack Ryan appeared on the big screen was with Shadow Circuit, which I didn't think was that bad of a movie in general. It was certainly a lot better than the one that came before, the Ben Affleck one, The Sum of All Fears. I've liked a lot of the Jack Ryan stuff in general, not just the movies, but the TV show. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with this in movie form. You know, give this a much bigger budget, see what they can do is how much to the extreme levels they're going to have to take to the big screen. Plus, Paramount's in need of an action franchise soon because Mission Impossible is looking like it's coming to an end with this next movie coming up here. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do with this in general. So not much more to say about that one, but really looking forward to seeing what they do with Jack Ryan going forward. And speaking of, actually, we'll get to that in just a second here, but let's move on to the next story I have here, which is the fact that despite Piece by Piece not becoming a big hit at the box office, it did well enough for Universal to say, we're gonna go ahead and start making more Lego movies, because they not only announced 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 different Lego movies on Halloween. Like, I guess this was the Universal's equivalent to giving to a candy treat on Halloween night, because you know, trick or treats and all that. And I've got the story here from Deadline Hollywood, and it's actually a couple stories here because the other one was announced not too long after this first story was announced. And that is that the Lego Group, under its deal with Universal Pictures, is making 3 live-action movies from director Jake Kasdan, Patty Jenkins, and Attack the Block's filmmakers Joe Cornish. The plots of all untitled 3 movies are under wraps. Joe Wyford and Ryan Christians from the Lego Group are producing all 3 projects. Universal's EVP Production Development Matt Riley and Director of Production Development Jacqueline Garrell will oversee the projects for the studios. Kasdan is directing off a script by Andrew Mogul and Jared Paul of The D-Train and The Grinder, based off an original idea and previous draft by Matt Milder and Kevin Burrows of The Pickup and Animal Friends. Kasdan will produce with Melvin Marr through his production company Detective Agency. The director of the $1.76 billion grossing recent Sony Jumanji movies and Amazon's MGM Studios' upcoming Red One is rep by WME and Sloss Eckhouse, Dacey Haynes, Lawco. Okay, this is just lawyer jargon and all that stuff. Basically, it's telling you Red One's coming out in a couple weeks, and Jumanji 3 is coming out in December 2026. We've already kind of discussed those. Jenkins' Lego project is from a script she wrote with former DC Entertainment president Jeff Johns of Wonder Woman 1984 and TV's The Flash. Jenkins is producing via her Wishes Pictures. Jenkins, the director of Warner Brothers' near billion-dollar Wonder Woman franchise, is rep by CAA. Okay, moving on there. On Cornish's Toy Brick movie, he is rewriting from a draft by Heather Ann Campbell of Rick and Morty and One Punch Man, which was off a treatment by Simon Rich of Man Seeking Women and Miracle Workers. Since kicking off with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the Lego Movie in 2014, the Toy Brands movies have included the Lego Movie 2, the second part, Lego Batman, and the Lego Ninjago movie, which have racked up north of $1.1 billion combined at the global box office. Universal and Lego had a great decade-long collaboration with Lego's Jurassic World and Lego's Jurassic Park products, which expanded to video games and animated TV specials, including Jurassic World: The Secret Exhibit and the 13-episode miniseries Lego Jurassic World: Legend of Isla Nublar. Additionally, the Lego Group and Universal Pictures and Products and Experiences are recently partnered together to bring a Lego Brickified trailer for the upcoming holiday event movie Wicked, in addition to a full lineup of Lego Wicked products. Universal Specialty Studios Focus Features recently teamed with the Lego Group on the Pharrell Williams biopic, Piece by Piece, that was told fully through Lego animation. The movie is 84% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics and an Abe Cinema score. The Morgan Neville-directed title was just nominated for Best Documentary Feature and Best Music Documentary for the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. And it's a great movie, too, by the way. You should definitely check that out. So that was the first story, and then this other story came not even an hour, but like 20 minutes after that story came out. And it says here, after creating and writing the first many seasons of the long-running animated series Ninjago for the Lego Group, brothers Ken and Dan Hageman have been enlisted to script a new live-action film in the Lego Ninjago franchise for Universal Pictures. News of the new Ninjago comes following word that Jake Kasdan, Patty Jenkins, and Joe Cornish are on board to direct live-action Lego movies for Universal. Details as to the plots of the Hagemans films are under wraps. And let's see here. Ninjago was introduced in 2011 as a line of ninja-themed construction toys before evolving into a major multimedia property. The story surrounding it follows a group of young ninja warriors who protect their world, known as Ninjago, from various evil forces. In addition to assorted video games, books, and graphic novels, Lego Ninjago is the focus of the aforementioned hugely popular animated series Ninjago, which ran for 15 seasons across Cartoon Network and Netflix. Building on this popularity, Lego expanded Ninjago to other formats, including 2017's The Lego Ninjago movie at Warner Brothers. The world of Ninjago is also highlighted with attractions at amusement parks like Legoland. And just giving you kind of stuff we already kind of knew already. But yeah, this is the most productive they've been since Universal bought the rights to the Lego movies. Like, they bought these rights back in 2019, and we didn't see anything until just this year with Piece by Piece. And I know that it takes a long time to put these movies together, but you think we would have at least heard something before when they bought these in 2019, when they bought the rights to this franchise in 2019. But now we're getting to hear them, and all of them sound pretty promising. You know, I've liked all the Lego movies in general. There's not been a bad one to me by any means necessary, and even the worst ones, like the Lego Movie 2, or even the Lego Ninjago movie, are not even bad movies. They're just lesser than the best stuff that these guys have done with the Lego Movie, Lego Batman, and Piece by Piece. Let me get a drink there, but yeah, I'm really excited to see these movies finally come to fruition. They've been talking about doing these movies for a long, long time now, and we've just been waiting to see what Universal and Lego would do with these. And if it's anything as something like Piece by Piece, which was a very small budgeted movie, surprisingly, and it works as well as it did, Like, I think we're in for a real surprise and a real treat when these movies eventually get made. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Universal and Lego do from this point going forward. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story we have here. And really, this is something that I'm kind of surprised it's taken them so long to actually do, but Game of Thrones could finally end up on the big screen. The Hollywood Reporter has reported the story this week that Warner Brothers has been quietly developing at least one film set in George R.R. Martin's epic fantasy universe that is Game of Thrones. Multiple sources describe the project as very early stage development with no filmmaker, cast, or writer yet announced, but the company is keen on exploring the idea of Westeros invading cinemas. The move might represent a shift in the company's strategy regarding the property. The showrunners of the original Game of Thrones series famously wanted to conclude the series with 3 feature films instead of its 2019 final season. George R.R. Martin was also keen on the idea of a movie, and the author told the Hollywood Reporter back in 2014 that concepts were being kicked around. But for a long time, HBO strongly resisted the idea and instead wanted to preserve the prestige series as an HBO property. Since the end of the original series, however, there have been countless changes to the company's executive ranks, with HBO now headed by Casey Bloys, and the film studio led by Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy, as well as the film versus TV landscape, including an increased willingness to shift cinematic properties to the small screen and back again. There's been Matt Reeves' box office hit The Batman, launching its acclaimed HBO spin-off The Penguin, Max's upcoming Dune Prophecy TV series following the success of Denis Villeneuve's 2 films, HBO prepping a new take on J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter novels as a TV series, and Warner Brothers developing new Lord of the Rings movies, even as Amazon unfurls its Ring of Power TV show. In short, the idea that a genre property needed to be either a movie or TV show has become outdated, so it's unsurprisingly that Thrones might be the next property to cross mediums. Good lord. In 2022, HBO launched the hit prequel series House of the Dragon, which recently aired its 2nd season. The network also has the upcoming prequel series A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms planned for 2025. There are other ideas in development as well. One tantalizingly unexplored territory remains storylines set after the original series, as all the film's successor projects thus far have been prequels. Thrones content has occasionally appeared in theaters before, with HBO previously giving major episodes of the original series limited screenings across the country to help promote the show. So yeah, an idea that probably should have happened a long time ago is finally going to happen. I mean, it's honestly surprising that Game of Thrones has not even come close yet to making it to the big screen, but now it's looking like it's going to do it. And like I said, really should not be much of a surprise whatsoever, and I'd be looking forward to seeing what they can do with a bigger, extravagant budget on the big screen. If they can do something on the level of the Lord of the Rings, what they did with those movies in general, I think this could be really, really entertaining and really an engaging idea of what to do by bringing this to the big screen. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do with this, if this actually gets made, which I think they should finally get around to getting Game of Thrones on the big screen. I mean, it feels like it's been a long time coming that this should have been done already. Turning to some ideas that probably should stay dead, but you know how Hollywood works. Tom Cruise is heading back into the realm of his old franchises and is going to make another sequel to one of his most popular franchises. Sort of. I don't really know how Days of Thunder is considered a successful franchise, but they're making a sequel to Days of Thunder 34 years later because clearly everyone was demanding a sequel to a Top Gun knockoff, which was quite literally a Top Gun knockoff, by the way. But Hollywood Reporter has the story here. Tom Cruise is also looking to make a sequel to another one of his action classics, and it's not the one that you'd expect. The actor is in talks with Paramount about a follow-up to his 1990 NASCAR racing film, Days of Thunder. On its surface, the idea seems rather bold. Thunder wasn't considered a box office hit upon its release, making $157 million globally with a production budget of $60 million, and the film received mixed to negative reviews from critics. But having revived and modernized 1986's Top Gun with 2022's blockbuster Top Gun Maverick, the actor believes he can work similar magic with his racing drama, which, like the original Top Gun, was a Paramount film produced by Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer and directed by Tony Scott. A Thunder revival had been floated before. Paramount once pitched a reboot of the title as a TV show for Paramount, an idea that Cruise nixed. Key factors include the project's script and the 62-year-old actor-producer's packed schedule. Cruise is about to start shooting the Reverend filmmaker Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu's mysterious next film for Warner Brothers, developing a Doug Liman movie for Universal that's set in actual space, and he's developing a sequel to Maverick, which Cruise and Paramount both consider the top priority. He's talking to Paramount about Top Gun and Days of Thunder, says a studio insider familiar with the discussions. It's going to be what comes together first in terms of the script. It depends on the idea and ultimately the script. Cruise, sources say, has script approval on all of his projects. Racing films have become rating fashionably lately, with the success of James Mangold's 2019 picture Ford v Ferrari, Michael Mann's less successful 2023 racing drama Ferrari, and next year's F1, which stars Brad Pitt and is directed by Maverick Helmer Joseph Kosinski, who would seem be the ideal choice to helm Thunder, but one imagines he wouldn't be too keen on making back-to-back racing movies. The glut of recent fast cars on track projects make the prospect of resurrecting Thunder even more daunting. Imagine if Maverick had been released after 3 other fighter pilot movies. But at least none of those other titles specifically explored the world of NASCAR racing, which had a decidedly different American vibe compared to the more European-based of Le Mans and Formula One. I don't think a Days of Thunder sequel is a terrible idea, added the Paramount source. The studio declined to comment for the story. You might have said that revisiting Top Gun was a bad idea. I wouldn't discount it. And so, yeah, but here's the difference, though, between Days of Thunder and Top Gun. Days of Thunder does not have the same loyal fan base as Top Gun. Like, Top Gun has that loyal fan base from the original film, even though that first movie is a very flawed film, and was even though it was the highest grossing movie released that year, it was still not a great film overall. In fact, Top Gun Maverick actually did manage to find a way to not only fix a lot of the problems from the previous movie, but it made it more successful and made it more of a more enjoyable experience with a much better film in general than the first movie was. And Top Gun has still has that loyal fan base to it. So does Mission Impossible. Days of Thunder does not. Days of Thunder has been widely known as a movie that is just nothing but a straightforward rip-off of Top Gun, except it's been literally called Top Gun on wheels. So there's not really much more you can do with a Days of Thunder sequel. I mean, because at this point, a Days of Thunder sequel would be like the equivalent of Sylvester Stallone saying, you know what America really needs? A sequel to Driven, that terrible movie about kart racing, which was literally defunct before the movie had even come out. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. And looking at the rest of the story here, then there's writer-director Christopher McQuarrie's eagerly anticipated Mission Impossible 8, which is finally wrapped and is in post-production. The project had a long and difficult journey, with a budget that was reportedly approaching $400 million amid production delays, partially due to the 2023 Hollywood strikes. While the franchise remains very popular, in 2022's seventh entry, Dead Reckoning Part 1, 2023 by the way, that's Hollywood Reporter got this wrong, largely drew raves, scoring more than 94% on Rotten Tomatoes among both critics and audiences. The last film's budget before marketing was nearly $300 million, and its box office returns were considered disappointing $566 million globally. Making matters more challenging for the upcoming film, Dead Reckoning ended on a cliffhanger, snapping the tradition of each Mission Impossible adventure being a standalone entry from where each film is wholly accessible to a fresh audience. Paramount has since dropped the Part 1 from 7's title. The new film's title will be revealed in the next couple of weeks when Paramount drops the first MIA trailer. Now, this is where it gets very interesting here. Paramount has been interested in promoting MI8 as the final entry in the action franchise as a way of boosting audience interest. Yet Cruise has been against saying a public goodbye to Ethan Hunt, not surprisingly considering that the preternaturally youthful actor was quoted last year as saying he hopes to keep making MI movies into his 80s. Harrison Ford is a legend. I've got 20 years to catch up with him. Cruise says, I hope to keep making Mission Impossible films until I'm his age. Still, Paramount is optimistic about MI8 and bullishly wants to bring the film to Cannes, a move that's lately developed a reputation as high risk for big-budgeted mainstream projects, given how the festivities' critical reception torpedoed Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and Horizon and American Saga months before each title's release. At least in the case of MI8, the festival is scheduled right before MI8 opens wide in theaters. Cannes runs May 13th to the 24th. The MI8 release date is May 23rd. So any critical bars for France will be coming around the same time, or just after the movie already had its world premiere and domestic critic screenings. I think Tom is in a good place, the Studio Insider noted, and I think Mission is going to be really good. So yeah, this next Mission Impossible movie more than likely is going to be the last one. So I don't know. Like this is a really intriguing situation right now because, like, I think the Mission Impossible series should end on a good note. I mean, I liked it. I liked Dead Reckoning, but I thought it was still a disappointment. I'm one of those few people that really thought it was a disappointment overall compared to the movies that had come before that. I thought that, not much was going on here. It was clear they were setting up for two movies, and it has the biggest problem of suffering from a lot of movies that are considered two-parters, because one part is where all the good is where all the lesser is more dialogue driven. Not a whole lot of action overall happens in it. But then the second movie is then where you put in all the action in it. And I thought the first one was good. I didn't think it was a bad movie in general, but I was let down by it for the most part in general. Like, I really was hoping for a lot more from it, honestly. And like, I don't know how to feel about all these things. Like, Mission Impossible 8 has a lot of things that it needs to really get back from the last movie in general here. Like, they really need to set up the ending of this storyline they had set up in the last movie. And also, and on top of that, just like I said before, the whole idea of doing a Days of Thunder sequel just feels really stupid to me, because Days of Thunder doesn't have the same appeal as Top Gun or Mission Impossible. It just feels like wasting a lot of people's time by making another sequel that nobody was asking for, and hoping you're going to strike lightly again like you did with Top Gun Maverick. And it's just not going to keep happening every time. At least I don't think it's going to keep happening with this movie, but that's not going to stop Hollywood from making them. So, speaking of things that people should be leaving alone, Ridley Scott is in the news again. Speaking of Tony Scott, who directed Top Gun and Days of Thunder, Ridley Scott is in the news with some news that will have some very interesting reactions to some people, depending on how you feel about his previous works in a specific franchise. So, whether you like it or not, Ridley Scott is coming back to the world of aliens, because the last time he did that with Prometheus, it worked out great. No, it really didn't. But there is... Okay, maybe I'm over-exaggerating a little bit here, but I have the story here from IGN, and it goes like this. Director and producer Ridley Scott has revealed that he is working on a new Alien movie for 20th Century Studios thanks to the success of Alien Romulus, and it's prominently Romulus 2. An interview with The Hollywood Reporter reports that Scott casually dropped this news that this was happening with absolutely no further details. However, we got the news just a week ago when 20th Century Studios was working on an Alien Romulus 2 idea, with Fede Alvarez returning to direct from the first Romulus. So it seems almost certain that these films are one and the same. Earlier in the interview, Scott noted that he's frustrated with his lack of ownership of both the Alien and Blade Runner franchises over the years, which he blames on some of his company's former management. I should have locked them up, as Steven Spielberg did with Jurassic and everything he does, and James Cameron has done with what he has, he said. I resurrected a dead Alien franchise with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and we should have rejoined the ownership right then, and we didn't because someone was careless. Or, just a heads up here, maybe Prometheus and Alien Covenant were just not good movies, and it's probably better if you didn't have your hand over it, because look at what happened with Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus turned out to be a pretty damn good movie, and maybe the best Alien movie we've had since the second Alien movie. I mean, I don't know. That's just my personal take on it, but I don't know how to feel about this. I think as long as he's not coming back to direct it and just letting Fede Alvarez make the film himself and just letting him, Ridley Scott can be around the film if he wants to, but don't let him be a director on it. Just let him be like one of the producers or create the story in general. But why ruin something that worked? Alien Romulus worked. It was a massive hit, both critically and financially. It made a ton of money at the box office. It was a critical success, and it's got people excited about the Alien franchise again. Something that hasn't happened in a long, long time. And really, why mess with a broken clock? I mean, really, why mess with a broken clock if it doesn't need to be messed with? I mean, that's just my personal take on it in general. But people love Ridley Scott, so they're going to be excited for this regardless of what I have to say about it. And, yeah, of course, there's an audience that's excited for Gladiator 2, which I still don't get whatsoever. Like, I don't understand the appeal of why people are so excited for that movie. That movie does not look good whatsoever. But, again, what do I know? But I don't know. I saw that. Just want to give my thoughts on that. And I personally don't like the idea of him doing another, as like having more control of the Alien movies, because the fact that he still thinks that Prometheus and Alien Covenant were great movies, like, that's where I kind of have to be like, okay, take a step back there, buddy. I know you're a legend, but pump the brakes, man. Just pump the brakes. Honestly, I've already had a lot of bad things to say about Ridley Scott that people have gotten upset at me with. But that's just my personal opinion on it. So, all right. So moving on to our next story. So if you watched Monday Night Football last week against the New York Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I apologize, but hey, the Steelers won. And if you want to go ahead and check out my live rewatch of that game, I'll actually leave a link to it in the corner so you can go check that out. It's on this channel. But There was the thing that before the halftime show that said, "Stay tuned for a special announcement from ESPN and Disney," and everyone was wondering, "What's this going to be?" I was kind of curious about, like, what is this going to be, like a special preview for like an upcoming Disney movie? Is this going to be like a trailer premiere for Moana 2 or Mufasa the Lion King, or one of Disney's 2025 releases? I mean, what's going on here? And so they made the announcement, and it's a pretty interesting idea. It's a pretty interesting, fun thing that they're going to be doing next month. And I've actually got the video here if you have not seen what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this.
On December 9th, two storied rivals will meet on the gridiron. A test of will, of spirit, of determination, in which ultimately only one can prevail. When these two ancient foes face off on Monday Night Football, it's more than just football. It's family. It's Bart and the Bengals versus Homer and the Cowboys, live from Springfield.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Simpsons are going to be taking over Monday Night Football in Disney's second ever Funday football game. And if you remember what they did last year with Toy Story, during the Falcons and Jaguars game in London, that was it was one of those so bad it was good type of events, and I can't wait to see this one. Honestly, this is from ESPN's official press release right here, and it says ESPN, Disney, and the Simpsons and the National Football League will premiere the Simpsons Funday Football on Monday, December 9th, an animated Monday Night Football game transformed into real time into the iconic Simpsons world using Sony's Beyond Sports technology. Adams Stadium in Springfield will host a fully immersive fan viewing experience featuring the Cincinnati Bengals at the Dallas Cowboys, ESPN's Monday Night Football game that evening. The Simpsons Funday Football alternate viewing presentation will stream Let me try that again. The Simpsons Funday Football alternate viewing presentation will stream on Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and on mobile with NFL Plus. The traditional Monday Night Football telecast will be available on ESPN, ABC, and ESPN Deportes, with Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli on ESPN2. Internationally, the special presentation will be available on linear and streaming in more than 145 markets. The legendary Simpsons creators have collaborated on the look, sound, and feel with ESPN and the NFL to ensure the authenticity of the longest-running primetime scripted series with more than 750 episodes. Each Bengals and Cowboys player will appear as a motion-enabled animated player for the special primetime matchup through state-of-the-art tracking technology enabled by NFL's next-gen stats, Sony's Beyond Sports, and combined with Sony's Hawkeye Innovations optical tracking. Fans enjoying the Simpsons Funday Football will see every snap, run, pass, score, and more from the real-life Bengals and Cowboys matchup at AT&T Stadium as it happens. With Springfield's Adams Stadium as the setting, the Simpsons Funday Football will be a true family affair as Bart Simpson sides with Joe Burrow and the Bengals, while Homer aligns with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. So, nice way of coming back to you only move twice when Homer basically getting his lifelong dream. Someday he wanted to own the Dallas Cowboys, and this is about as close as he's going to get, quite honestly. And for most of the game, Bart and Homer will let their new Bengals and Cowboys teammates manage the action, but the iconic father and son duo won't sit on the sideline for the entire game. Each will select key opportunities to play offense and or defense, replacing a player and joining his other 10 teammates on the field. Surrounding the gameplay, Marge and Lisa will interview players during the game, and Maggie will fly the Skycam, while popular characters, show references, and aesthetics will bring a real Sunday Night with the Simpsons feel to Monday Night Football. And they run down an entire list of things they have planned, including a maraud of Simpsons characters. The telecast will feature dozens of the show's iconic characters, with each character playing into their well-known personas. Authentic Simpson voices, Hank Azaria, Nancy Cartwright, Dan Castellaneta, Julie Kavner, and Yardley Smith, will voice several of their characters in pre-recorded bits and skits. Picking sides, Homer and Bart will rally their supporters who will join them on their respective sidelines throughout the matchup. Lisa, Krusty, Nelson, Milhouse, and Ralph will be with Bart, and Carl, Barney, Lenny, and Moe will be with Homer, convincingly. Outside of the live game, Simpsons producers have written original content for the telecast that will be utilized before, during, and after the game. The timeless theme song and more jingles from the show will be featured. Animated segments incorporating Stephen A. Smith, Peyton and Eli Manning, and more will appear in the telecast, with their segments written by the Simpsons characters. Players from both teams will have pre-recorded segments which included interactions with Simpsons characters. The Simpsons Funday Football will have its own animated commentators as ESPN Simpsons enthusiasts Mina Kimes and Dan Orlovsky will provide football strategy discussions with Drew Carter calling the game action. Kimes, Orlovsky, and Carter will be animated in the style of The Simpsons and don ESPN Edge's innovation partners MetaQuest Pro headsets to experience the game from Springfield thanks to VR technology and Sony Beyond Sports virtual commentator technology. This just looks like it's going to be a ton of fun, man. I love The Simpsons. It's my favorite television show of all time. I consider it the greatest TV show of all time. The stuff they're showing for this game in particular, from the images that they've shown already for this presser, look pretty incredible, and they just look like so much fun. This looks like it could be an incredibly fun way to watch this game in particular because, it's a game against the Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, by this point, neither one of these teams could be playing for anything of importance in the playoff picture because Cincinnati is not that great of a football team right now. The Cowboys are not that good of a football team right now. This seems like a nice, fun, alternative way to watch this, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this. I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. I'm really looking forward to this. I can't wait to check this thing out. Like I said, Monday, December 9th, excuse me, Monday, December 9th, Cowboys and the Bengals, Simpsons Football Funday. Just looks like a ton of fun. I can't wait to see how this turns out. So, this stupid pop-up will get out of the way. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. So yeah, CBS had quite an eventful week. They've seen not one, not two, but three of their longtime television staples going to other networks, and it kind of started back on Wednesday, when the Hollywood Reporter dropped this bombshell that the Grammy Awards are moving from CBS over to ABC, and this was reported everywhere. But the Hollywood Reporter story right here starts off like this. Wouldn't you know? As soon as I get ready to read the story, I accidentally click on the next story. Anyway, the Grammys are getting a new home after more than 50 years on CBS. In the major shakeup of the television awards landscape, the Grammy Awards will move to Disney outlets beginning in 2027. ABC, Hulu, and Disney Plus will simulcast the music industry honors under a 10-year deal that will run through 2036. The move will also make Disney the home of what are traditionally the two most watched awards telecast in any given year, with the Grammys joining the Oscars. CBS will have the Grammys in 2025 and 2026, with the final year marking the end of a more than half a century broadcasting the awards. The network first aired the Grammys in 1973. George Harrison's The Contest for Bangladesh won Album of the Year, and has partnered with the Recording Academy on the show ever since. As the Walt Disney Company combined forces with the Recording Academy to open this exciting new chapter in the history of the Grammys, we do so with pride and gratitude, said Disney Entertainment co-chairman Dana Walden in a statement. Live events have never been more important to our culture and industry, and we've just acquired one of the crown jewels, adding to our portfolio of world-class programming across all genres. Adding Recording Academy CEO Harvey Mason Jr., we are completely thrilled to bring the Grammys and whole other new musical programming to the Disney ecosystem. We are grateful to our long-standing partners at CBS and now honored to be joining with Disney, an iconic company where creators have always been at the forefront. The partnership represents another important milestone in the Academy's transformation and growth, and strengthens our ability to fulfill our mission of uplifting and serving music people around the world. In its first year of Disney's Grammy deal, ABC will feature three of the biggest TV events of the year in quick succession: the 2027 Super Bowl, the Grammys, and the Oscars. The Grammy Awards in February brought in 17.909 million viewers for CBS, a 36% jump from the previous year's telecast in the key advertising demographics of adults 18 to 49. The show's 4.05 rating, equivalent to 5.4 million people in that age range, outdrew the Oscars' 3.82 rating, around 5.1 million viewers. Along with the Oscars and the NFL, Disney's live event portfolio also includes the annual New Year's Rocket Eve special, the CMA Awards, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, the NBA Finals, and the College Football Playoff. So, yeah, the Grammy Awards are moving away from CBS, and, that's a big story in general, but at the same time, there was another major, I think that's a big story, but the story that has been circulating around and wasn't made official until pretty much after Halloween, I think is much more interesting because, when the CBS holiday schedule came out last week, there was two notable specials missing there, and nobody really knew what was going on. Nobody really knew who got the rights back, who's got the rights, what's going on with what's going on. Are they just going to be put on later in the schedule? But not until this past Friday, we finally got an announcement on something that makes a lot of sense when you really think about it, but it's still pretty shocking when you see what's going to happen. And that is, of course, that for the first time since the 1960s, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman will not be on CBS this holiday season. In fact, they are moving networks to NBC. That Night in Hollywood has the story right here. The Christmas classic holiday special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, is returning to NBC after more than 5 decades at CBS. The 75-minute telecast will air December 6th at 8 p.m., the exact same date it premiered in 1964 as part of the General Electric Fantasy Hour on NBC. Rudolph ran on NBC from 1964 through 1971 before moving to CBS. And listen to that opening part again, the 75-minute telecast. I'll talk more about that in just a second here, but as if you remember, the classic stop-motion animated special offers the perspective of Rudolph, who's told he could not play in any reindeer games due to his glowing nose. Rudolph sets off on a fantastic journey when he meets Hermie the Elf, Prospector Yukon Cornelius, and a host of misfit toys, all while trying to hide from the abominable snow monster. The story is narrated by Burl Ives, who plays Sam the Snowman, and whose iconic recording of the Rudolph song has been part of the culture. NBC will also air another Christmas classic, Frosty the Snowman, on Thursday, December 5th at 8:30. Now, going back to the beginning of that, about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it's important to listen to that part again. 75 minutes. Because keep in mind, the version that has been airing on TV on CBS for so many decades, that's the shorter version. That's the one that's truncated down to an hour long. And there's like a significant part of the special that's like cut down. And they hadn't been seen on TV for the longest time until Freeform in May of 2019 started picking up the show, and then they ran the entire version of Frosty, is both Rudolph and Frosty the Snowman, the one that's not cut down by CBS in general, and so the one that's been on Freeform for the longest time finally is returning to broadcast television after all these years. And like, there are so many different. There's like just to give you kind of an idea of what these truncated versions of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer have been like. I'm reading it right here from Wikipedia, so to give you kind of an idea here, that the one that's been airing on TV for the last 18 years started in 2005 when it was aimed to present the special in an HD format, and the visuals are much different combined with the soundtrack of the 64 version compared to the 65 edited version. And that version's been criticized for various issues, including a poorly truncated version of We're a Couple of Misfits, played over the visuals of Fame and Fortune, telltale signs of warping and distortion on the audio track, visual sync issues, and audio mismatches. So, yeah, the original broadcast is finally making its return to the network to broadcast to network television after over almost 20 years, and it's doing it on a network that it started off with back in the day. Like, it's really going to be very interesting, because it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out on NBC. Like, NBC, all of a sudden, has taken a lot of CBS's muster, because they not only grabbed these two specials, but they also grabbed How the Grinch Stole Christmas, that used to be a CBS special back in the day. Of course, went through various networks at the time, including ABC and the WB. And the only one that's not there right now is a Charlie Brown Christmas, which is still being relegated to streaming only on Apple, which I still think is really sucks in general, because those Charlie Brown specials really deserve to be on broadcast television along with the other specials. But I just thought that was very interesting that CBS not only lost the Grammys, but they lost Rudolph, they lost Frosty, all within the span of a week. And it's just it's just showing you how the times have changed in the world of television, because those used to be traditions back in the day, and now it's just like all of a sudden, like, they're all now on new places, and it's a really, really bizarre situation that we're living in here. But like I said, it's going to be interesting to see these returning to places that they were before, and yeah, it's just a really, really interesting situation overall. Like, yeah, it's just really, really interesting to say. Not much more to say about that, except it's very, very interesting. How many more times can I say interesting in this? But the Grammys moving to ABC in a couple years. Rudolph and Frosty are moving to NBC this year. Definitely a sign of the times that the times are changing in terms of television in general. So let's go back to one last news story I want to get to, and then we can wrap this up. Actually, before I get to this last story here, I have the video. Someone actually did put up the original commercials from that night when Rudolph premiered on NBC back in 1964 during the General Electric Fantasy Hour. And just to give you kind of an idea of what they meant when they said that this was originally an NBC special, these were the commercials that aired when this first aired back in 1964. Take a listen. If we get this little intro here.
Join Rudolph in a trip to the island of misfit toys. Meet Yukon Cornelius, the funniest prospector of the North.
Gadzooks, the humble snow monster of the North strikes again.
Meet Santa's elves and hear 7 original Christmas songs. Burl sings,
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year. I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer.
it's a holly jolly Christmas special for the entire family. Don't miss Rudolph, Sunday, December 4th, in color on most of these stations.
So that was like the little commercial that they promoted the special for, which is actually going to be, I think they said that it was going to air this year on December 6th, and this is the before, so about a couple days after that, but this was the original opening, and if you watch this whole thing in particular, you get some commercials with the Rudolph characters promoting General Electric, because this was on the General Electric Fantasy Hour.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC. The General Electric Fantasy Hour. An hour-long adventure musical for you and your family. Presented by the General Electric Company, makers of world-famous portable home appliances, clocks, health, beauty, and floor care products.
Wrapping gifts can be fun, gives a feeling of joy to everyone. Christmas time is almost here, with General Electric gifts to add to the cheer.
Here's the gift for the 25th for every girl who wants a curl.
A General Electric hairdryer in this fashionable new travel case.
Touch-up curling is an easy chore. Dries much quicker, and what's more, it pampers your hair with professional care at home or away.
What weighs a little over 4 pounds?
And is packed with cleaning power.
The new GE portable cleaner. Cleans up,
Cleans down.
cleans all around. Does bare floors do the water fast. For Christmas giving, it's not surpassed.
Let's think of her kitchen and be just supreme.
It bakes like an oven, toasts like a dream.
A General Electric Deluxe Toaster Oven.
I mean, it's literally just the elves from the toy shop just promoting all these different GE products. And keep in mind, this is over 20 years before NBC bought General Electric, too, so. But I'll go ahead and leave the link to this video below so you can go check it out. But it'd be very fun. It'd be very cool if NBC played this over again and restored this footage and aired that as part of the special, which I don't think would happen, but would be kind of fun to see. I'm not going to lie, but. So anyway, that's that story in particular. So let's go ahead and get to the story I wanted to talk about next. And that's our last story here, and it involves our good friend Robert Zemeckis, who has made news this weekend, not for the best news, because his movie was an unfortunate flop at the box office, but he was talking about one of his, I would say arguably his cinematic masterpiece. Who Framed Roger Rabbit came up in the news again this week, and you know, Robert Zemeckis brought this up, and I have the story here from the Hollywood Reporter, and its title is, Robert Zemeckis says there's a good Roger Rabbit 2 script that will never get made because of Jessica Rabbit. Okay. Interesting way to start off, but here's the story from the Hollywood Reporter, and it says, Robert Zemeckis has some bad news for fans who would love to see a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'd like to know who those people are, because I would like to say that you're not really upset about this, because Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a great movie on its own right. The time for a sequel has come and gone, and I think it's time to just move along for that, but I'll do more into that in just a second here. The director appeared on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz this week to discuss his new film Here, starring Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. During the conversation, the host asked the filmmaker about a potential Roger Rabbit sequel. And he says, there's a good script sitting at Disney, but here's the thing. Here's what you have to know, and you know this. The current Disney would never make Roger Rabbit today, Zemeckis said. They can't make a movie with Jessica in it. Though it would seem inferior that the company wouldn't pass up on what would probably be a popular sequel, the director pointed to Jessica Rabbit's new Toontown ensemble in Disneyland, which is different than her appearance in the 1988 film. Look at what they've done to Jessica at the theme park, he said. They trussed her up in a trench coat, you know. In 2021, Disneyland updated Jessica Rabbit's look in the Anaheim park from a red dress to a trench coat, allegedly more in line with her new career as a private investigator, taking after Bob Hoskins' Eddie Valiant in The Project. And they actually have a link here to that, and let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so they basically just replaced the Jessica Rabbit that was in the original Roger Rabbit cartoon spin ride and just gave her a trench coat and made her a detective. Okay, so what? Like, but where are we at here? Okay. The Back to the Future helmer explained that when he first began working on the movie, a new regime had just entered Disney, and they were full of energy and excited for whatever came next. Then I kept saying, and I sincerely say this, and I do believe this, and I said, I'm making Roger Rabbit the way I believe Walt Disney would have made it, Zemeckis recalled on the podcast. And the reason I say that is because Walt Disney never made any of his movies for children. He always made them for adults, and that's what I decided to do with Roger Rabbit. Despite wanting to make the film the way that Walt Disney wanted, the Forrest Gump director admitted that he was still worried about showing it to children and their parents. One time we did a test preview with just moms and kids, he said. I was terrified because these kids were like 5, 6 years old. They absolutely were riveted to the movie, and I realized that the thing is kids get everything. They understand, they get it. You don't have to. I think the thing that Walt Disney never did was that he never talked out the children in his movies. He treated the kids like they were adults. Which I don't really get. Okay, first of all, his argument here really does not make any sense whatsoever. Like, he talks about how he showed a test screening of Who Framed Roger Rabbit to moms and kids, and he said the kids were 5, 6 years old and they were riveted to the movie. They think that kids get and he said kids get everything, and he's talking about like he didn't want to talk down to the children in these movies, and he treats the kids like they were adults. Okay, that still doesn't explain why you don't think a Roger Rabbit movie sequel won't get made. And before that, he makes a big deal like, look at what they did to Jessica at the theme park. They turned her up in a trench coat and everything, okay? It was like, okay, they put her in a trench coat. So what? Like, here's the reason why Disney does not want to do a Roger Rabbit sequel now. There's no reason to do a Roger Rabbit 2. I'm sorry. There's just no reason to do it. The first film works on its own. It's a great solo film. We don't really need to expand on this idea. That time has come and gone, man. You got to move on from that. Like, I know there's been a Roger Rabbit movie in a sequel that's been talked about for so many years. They talked about doing it all the way back in the day when the first movie was such a big success in general. But, the sequel is, they've been talking about doing the sequel for so long, and there's no real reason to do it now, even after all these years. Like they tried to do this all the way back in the late 90s, like over 10 years after the first movie came out. It's just like, that time has come and gone, man. You gotta move along. And just like, Bob Hoskins dying in 2014 also doesn't help matters either. And it's just like it makes no sense why he continues to think that this is a story that needs to continue into another movie. Like, they were talking about doing something with Roger Rabbit not too long ago and Mickey Mouse. There was this idea that, there was going to be a buddy movie with Mickey Mouse and Roger Rabbit called The Stooge, based off the 50s movie the same name, which was supposed to be a prequel taking place 5 years before Roger Rabbit, and part of the story is how Roger meets Jessica. And it was a movie that was the writer of the original book, Gary K. Wolfe, had pitched to Disney, and that kind of went nowhere. But that sounds a lot more promising than just doing a straightforward sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit at this point. Like, at this point, there's no reason whatsoever to do a Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2. I mean, at this point, there's just no reason to do it. The original movie is a masterpiece that works on its own, and there's just really nothing more you can do to really add more to it at this point. I mean, it's way too long to do another one, and just let it die, man. Just let it die after that. And it's funny because he brings up another movie that he's been wanting to do for a while now, and it's actually a story that just came out today, actually, as I'm trying to find a good story to really delve into here. Let's see. I'll go to this one here. This comes from World of Real, and he talks about how, Robert Zemeckis pitched an idea to direct Back to the Future, the musical, and it was rejected by Universal. Which you can pretty much see why that's a problem, but I'll just go ahead and read the story here. It does look as though, after 40 plus years of creative freedom, Robert Zemeckis' career has finally hit a wall. It was a good run while it lasted. Zemeckis has delivered many cherished audience classics such as Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, Contact, and Castaway. Last month, the usually busy Zemeckis told the WTF podcast that he has currently no projects lined up for his next film and went on to blame it on the current state of the industry. Things are slow. There's a strange thing happening that I've never seen before, which is that nobody's in a hurry to make anything. I think nobody knows what to do. What do you make? What do you do? And he goes on to say, I don't buy that excuse. Fact is that Zemeckis, whose films have grossed over $4.4 billion worldwide, had 5 straight commercial and critical failures. Here, Pinocchio, The Witches, Welcome to Marwen, and Allied. His last big hit with critics and audiences was 2012's Flight. Which, yeah, that's kind of an idea. That's kind of absolutely true. Even though I've liked a lot of his movies, I can't really say that the guy is a reliable director in terms of making movies that are going to be as memorable as Back to the Future or Roger Rabbit. But the last 5 movies he's made have not been big hits whatsoever. But it's now come to the point where Zemeckis is willing to go as far as to ask Universal if he could direct a movie adaptation of Back to the Future the musical. That's what he told Happy Sad Confused's Josh Horowitz during a recent chat. I would love to do Back to the Future the musical, just like Mel Brooks did The Producers. I would love to do that. I think that would be great. I floated that out to the folks at Universal. They don't get it, so nothing I can do. And I've heard the Back to the Future musical isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good, but unfortunately, the show says we'll be closing down in January due to ticket sales. But there's one reason why they won't do a new Back to the Future movie at Universal, and it specifically goes back to the contract that they literally signed that Steven Spielberg literally signed with Universal about remaking or continuing storylines, continuing movies in general, and from these filmmakers. Let me see if I can find it here, because I remember seeing it. Okay, I found it right here. This is from an older article from Screen Rant, and it says right here, it's unlikely that another Back to the Future movie could be made without its creators, as Gale and Zemeckis have an ironclad agreement with Steven Spielberg and his production company, Amblin Studios. While the full rights to the franchise are complicated, Gale spoke to the Collider podcast back in 2020 about why he wants no part in Back to the Future 4 and cited an agreement between himself, Zemeckis, Spielberg, and Amblin. We have an understanding with Spielberg and Amblin that there will never be another Back to the Future movie without our blessing or being involved, so it's not going to happen, Gale said. Gale's reasons beyond foregoing a Back to the Future movie are admittedly understandable. Gale stated that he believed that the Gale I mentioned here is Bob Gale, the co-writer of Back to the Future, by the way. Bob Gale stated that he believed the trilogy told a complete story and that Fox's health was a primary concern. In addition, Gale lamented that another sequel would equate to a cheap cash grab. He felt that Back to the Future had already made enough money. Between Gale's adamant denials of another sequel and the agreements that he and Zemeckis have with Spielberg and Amblin, anticipation for Back to the Future 4 in the immediate future can be put to rest as the creators are wholly tied to their creation. So, really, there's nothing more you could do with Back to the Future, and just doing a Back to the Future musical, you're going to end up doing the same thing that they did with Mean Girls this year. It's just you're just basically remaking the original movie, except adding a musical element to it. And while the Back to the Future musical idea could be very interesting in general, maybe you could do it as a live musical or something, don't waste your time making it a big-budget movie like that, because we already saw what happened with Mean Girls earlier in the year, and it just ended up being such a disaster of a film. I hated that movie so much, because it was nothing but the original Mean Girls, except let's add musical numbers to it, because why not? Yeah, there's a reason why not, because, that works for a Broadway musical. As a movie, it just really feels like you're just trying to achieve cash grab, just like Bob Gale said about Back to the Future. I mean, I work at a grocery store, and I see a lot of Mean Girls food items related to Back to Mean Girls. With Nestle Coffee Mate has some Mean Girls stuff. Ocean Spray has a bunch of Mean Girls juices that are really have nothing tied to the original movie except the fact that, hey, we've got all these quotes from Mean Girls. Let's put them on there and just put Mean Girls on there. That'll sell the film. And then it just feels absolutely unnecessary to do it. that. And I hope that's not. I hope that we never get to see another Back to the Future movie, because just leave the original. Just let the original trilogy be the original trilogy, man. I'm tired of these. I'm tired of sequels that are absolutely pointless and are just being made because the name recognition. Sometimes you get some good ones here and there, but most times, yeah, there's no reason to make these new films. I mean, just let the old series die out. Let them be the classics that they are. Just let it be, man. Just let it be. So that's the story I wanted to cover there. So let's go ahead and take a look at some recommendations for the week, and then we can get on out of here. And a lot of stuff coming out next week. Unfortunately, not a lot of good stuff in general. But I went to Walmart earlier today, actually, and I found I found some of the movies that they're going to be having at the store when these movies come out. It's going to be the new Crow, which I know everyone's looking forward to that. M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Blake Lively's It Ends With Us. Afraid, the AI horror movie about the house that wants to kill the family. So yeah, those are 4 movies right away, and that just proves that this is not a really enticing new release week in general. But we have a couple of things that I'm kind of curious about. The 4:30 movie from Kevin Smith comes out this week. I've been hearing a lot of good things about that one. Blink Twice was a movie I really wanted to check out in theaters, but it never came around here. I just never really got around to seeing it. But I've heard a lot of good things about that one. South Park has Not Suitable for Children coming out on Blu-ray for the first time after being on Paramount Plus. Let's see what else we got here. As my computer decided to black out on me for a second there. Nothing else in particular here. I Love Lucy's coming out on Blu-ray this week. So is The Wizard of Oz, getting ready for the release of Wicked. White Christmas is getting a 4K release, and I think that's been out for a while now. Other than that, though, there's a lot of stuff out there, just nothing really that interesting for me that I want to grab. Krampus comes out in a nice-looking steelbook, so maybe I can find that at a good price. I'll definitely check that out, but maybe that one, Blink Twice, South Park, those are the ones I'd probably recommend the most this week, but I'm kind of curious about the 4:30 movie. I've heard some good things about that one, so I'd be kind of curious to see how that one works out, but yeah, it's been a busy week, a long weekend. Had the week off from work. It was really nice to get away from working in a grocery store before we get to the holiday season, and yeah, good week overall. I got to complete the Tonight Show documentary finally, and soon, and on Thanksgiving I'll have the entire Tonight Show documentary available as a full-length movie. So definitely look out for that over on the main channel. But with all that said, it's been a long week. It's been a really packed week of news stories, and been an overall enjoyable week indeed. So thank you very much for watching this and listening to this on the Reviewing Network Live. And if you like this and you want to see more of what we have here, I want to ask you to please like the video below, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notification button, because we post videos all the time here. We have clipless versions of the newest Time About the Movies episodes every week, every day on the other channel, every day from the other channel to here. We also have the NFL Network specials, and I know I've been kind of lacking the last couple of weeks worth of episodes, but I'm going to try to get one out this week. But yeah, we post stuff here every day. Trailer reactions. Got some big trailers coming up here, so coming up in the next couple weeks with the holidays coming up, so expect a lot of trailer reactions coming up this month. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and I will see you guys next Sunday night for another episode. We post new episodes here every Sunday night, and I hope you will be here to join us. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time. So until the next time I see you and hear from you, we are out.